We will now interrupt your regularly scheduled programming for this Good Old Blades micro podcast.
As the stipulations for social media conduct change as it relates to knife making and other restricted products and services and things like that, a lot of people have asked me specifically about how to develop a website for knife makers that satisfy the gambit of e-commerce requirements. And I thought it'd be a good idea on this micro podcast to talk a little bit about websites, why you would want that over doing all of your business over social media, and some options that you have. So, first and foremost, knives by most social media platforms, Instagram and Facebook primarily, are considered weapons. Because of that, they heavily restrict not only the ability to promote individual posts and pages, but then also further use algorithms to limit the exposure of those type of websites and accounts, to limit the amount of reach that an account, business or otherwise, has with their user base. All right. And this is not conjecture. This happens all the time. It is just the process of adhering to acceptable use policies, and most social media platforms do not like weapons, and again, knives are one of them. So, the largest problem with that is that though you might see some level of success and supportability within a given social media platform today, it does not look the same as it did 5 years ago, and even 2 years ago. Things are progressively changing in the world of how data is searched and how impressions are augmented. So what you actually see out of a social media platform, and it's getting so specific that if there's anything that a social media platform feels is damaging to their brand or to their user base or otherwise, the political and bureaucratic side of it, then they will limit your exposure or remove your account. And we're seeing that in droves with political posts and other type of social dissidence posts that might have fact checking, or people are getting banned or their account suspended for a certain period of time because of it. So it's just the world that we live in. Problem being, as a knife maker, if you're looking for social media to provide a user base for you to market your goods to, the more restrictive they get, the more difficult it is for you to get visibility. So gone are the days of being able to post something on Instagram and getting, thousands of views on videos or on posts, because thousands of people are not looking at your stuff. And if you try to promote it, they're going to go back to their acceptable use policy and say it's a banned or illegal product or whatever. It's against their acceptable use policy. And though you might not be out any money, you won't be able to complete that campaign or boost your posts or anything like that. So, in the interest of being able to actually sell a product, you need to be able to have it on something where you control every aspect of its operation and visibility. Now, that does come with certain caveats, because even having a website on the internet today, you're still subject to the ability for search engines to pick it up. If Google decides for some reason that they don't like something that you have on your website, they can choose to deprioritize or lower the relevance of that automatically, and you show up lower on search engines, or you don't have relevance built out in search engines. And it's all part of the machine. So, kind of with that idea in mind, there are lots of website builders out there that you can use in order to create a website. A few of those from the lowest end of the price range start out with like GoDaddy and Squarespace and Wix, and then you go up to probably the smaller medium business type of accounts and services with Shopify and BigCommerce, and finally Magento. But I don't think that any normal knife making company will need the powerhouse that is Magento to run their e-commerce stores. That's usually reserved for high customizability and vast inventories and things like that. So there's not that many large knife companies that even use Magento. I think maybe Smoky Mountain Knife Works uses it, and a few others, but not many. So whatever the case may be, what specifically you're looking for when you're developing a website is ease of inventory management and being able to present a narrative on your website that tells the story about you, your knife making. All right. Idea at least being that, when somebody hits your website, they can see anything that you have for sale. They can learn something about you as a maker, your journey through knife making, and they can see examples of your work. So that kind of covers the basics. So any platform that you're looking for, it either needs to be able to host a website that you have not inventory in as an e-commerce experience, but maybe available knives and pictures and things, and they have to reach out to you, which those are fairly simplistic development efforts, or full e-commerce platforms that have a shop and have inventory and associate product IDs and SKUs and prices and a cart experience where you can select something, check out on it. It reduces the inventory by whatever number you have as your inventory levels, and so on and so forth. The expectation that you should have around cost for a website, if it is only presenting your product but it's not an e-commerce platform, is probably less than $150 a year. For websites that have e-commerce capabilities, you're probably looking at somewhere between $300 and $400 on the lower side. If you're going to Shopify, you're probably looking at about $500, somewhere around there. Most websites have plans available, and you can kind of work through that. When you're selecting the platform that you're going to use, you have to decide on whether you just want a regular website to show, your gallery and things like that, and about, the About You page, or whether you want e-commerce. And then there's some decisions that you have to make on e-commerce platforms and how much volume you're going to be doing. If you're selling 20, 30 knives a year, that's a little bit different than if you're selling hundreds of them in a semi-production or production type of scenario. And the development requirements for the website change quite a bit depending on how complex you're getting, and an interactive cart and product page and inventory and everything like that does get a little bit time-consuming and complex as to how you express your products in a way that makes sense to an end user and enables the purchasing process. All right. So when you make these decisions, you're going to have to also decide on whether you need help with that or whether you can do it all yourself. Now, my experience with knife making and knives is that most people in the tangible goods and crafts don't have an exceptional amount of technical prowess. And that's why I build out quite a few websites per year. It's because I'm usually helping out friends and other people that I'm introduced to, because the world of the website and e-commerce and everything like that can be a little bit complex to navigate, especially if you don't understand anything about the code that goes into it and so on and so forth. However, what I will say is you can, kind of short circuit the technical deficit you might have by going with something like GoDaddy or Wix or even Squarespace at times, because a lot of the website building experience is point and click. So they've gotten good enough with web development platforms where you can build a website out primarily by yourself. You can even use templates that are there to give you guidance, and all you're doing is changing configurations, which are all text-based or things like that. It walks you through the process of doing that. So the only real advice I can give you otherwise on how to navigate this space is that if you feel like you're out of depth and you feel like you have to muddle through developing a website, then you really have to think about what the purpose is of the website. If it is to sell, if it is to present your story and everything and monetize that through selling on your website, then you want it to be the very best and the most user-friendly experience that it can be. And maybe if you're not capable of doing that, you have to enlist help. Developers, depending on whether they're experienced in general e-commerce or website development or using other platforms to make it easier for you to manage, their prices vary. It could be, several $100s to several $1,000s. And I've worked on websites anything from, the $500 range up to, several tens of thousands of dollars for complex builds, but in general for knife making somewhere under $7,000. It just kind of depends. I wouldn't expect in general that anyone listening to this would need to spend that much money. But there are some complications if you don't know how to do it, and there's a lot of hours involved for a developer, because at the end of the day, what you're paying for in a developer and an administrator is the number of hours it takes to get everything done that you need done from an inventory and website perspective and whatnot. So, the mileage and cost may vary. But once you get your website built, your next priority really should be funneling the traffic that you have on social media to your website for purchasing. So instead of doing, raffles and giveaways and, selling products or doing drops inside of the context of social media, maybe actually set up and configure all of that on your website so you're able to do those same things, and then list that website, that section of the website up on social media and drive your customers to the website. That way you're not actually performing any quasi-illegal activities on social media. You're handling that all off-site on your website. And by doing that, you're also making your website top of mind for your collectors and community holistically, so that way they know that if you're going to do something, it's going to be on your website. So I hope that helps. It really only scratches the surface on how complex websites can be, and all the code and other things like that are involved with it. However, if you find a fairly simplistic web editing software or a platform like Wix or Squarespace or GoDaddy, it should be fairly intuitive, and I think that you can muddle through building a website that at least gives you a presence online, and you can forward people to see your work and then reach out and contact you.